All right, here we go. Waiting for it to catch up. We're live. Today I've got a couple of topics I'm going to talk about. If you were here early, you know that we chat for about an hour before we go live. So if you have a specific question about your tank, that's a great place to get it answered because I'm kind of working on setting up the stream and then I look back and I answer the question. And then also it gives me some good topics to talk about throughout the show. So I write down a few things and so one of those that I'm going to grab out of the chat from a little bit earlier was this person had a very fine leaf plant that was being consumed by a mono shrimp. And, that seems counterintuitive because we mostly buy a mono shrimp to clean up algae and plants, right? Well, algae in general is kind of a soft thing that can be picked off of stuff. And so um, it's not too far-fetched to go, oh, look, they're picking off whole plant parts. And so the takeaway I have from a comment like that is feed your shrimp more. A lot of people, they barely are feeding shrimp at all. And when you start visiting some of these breeders, there's all kinds of um, methodology, I would say. But the big breeders that are producing lots are feeding by the handfuls, feeding tons of food. People that are breeding more kind of specialized stuff where like they're not breeding big numbers, but they're working on new color variants. A lot of times they're feeding very minimally, right? But something like on a mono shrimp, they're voracious, which means they just eat a ton. They're always wanting to eat. And in general, um, a scavenger like that wants to be eating all day long, right? And so if you're having problems with any fish or um, invertebrate that's snacking on your plants that isn't just an herbivore, right? Like obviously if you put in like silver dollars, they're going to eat them. Um, but something that's an omnivore or well, you can curb like an omnivore, so it could eat some plants, but if you feed it really well, it gets lazy and typically doesn't. Um, and then you'll get some that just will go and eat plants just because they're straight up hungry. So fight it off with feeding them a lot. At the moment, what do I feed at the moment? I feed mostly leftover food from other stuff, but then when I'm feeding actual shrimp foods out, I'm feeding the extreme shrimpy food. It's weird. Like from an ingredient standpoint, I don't love it. From the shrimp going bonkers and devouring it, I do love it. And that's always my first metric with foods is actually how much do they like it? Is it easy to feed? Are they eating it all? Is there any waste? Those types of things. And then it goes to how good is it for the shrimp or the fish or something like that? Because so many foods are so good now that that's kind of the afterthought. They got to eat it first to get any nutrition. So we start there, or at least I do. I'll start this out early because I always forget till the end and people have to remind me. But if you're so inclined, share and invite your friends to hang out on Sundays with you in the chat and learn about fish keeping and Aquarium Co-op. I'm gonna change the narrative, I guess. Not change it, reinforce the narrative of the live streams. The live streams is always kind of what's going on with Aquarium Co-op and fish keeping and myself. And I read a comment just a couple days ago, and it was like I think it was in response to like one of our stories or something. It's like seems like all this company's trying to do is sell stuff, and I didn't reply. I started replying and I deleted it. But yes, that's exactly what we do. Aquarium Co-op as a company, we exist purely to sell stuff, right? We also are making the hobby better and doing these other things, but at the end of the day, to pay for anything, we have to sell stuff. So don't forget that the YouTube channel never began without the need to sell stuff. And so it will always have that delicate balance of, is it just product releases or are we helping people too? And some days might be heavy on one or the other, but overall the channel, we don't sell anything necessarily when we do a video about being in Germany or in Peru or something like that. So there's the delicate balance we try to strike, and yeah, I'm sure there's ups and downs for different people watching. Enjoying the member talks as a member. Looking forward to Tanner's talk in November. Yes, we had a member talk yesterday from Andy of Extreme, which even I learned a few things. And I've hung out with a guy in multiple countries, and it shows. And so you get to know someone and a lot of what they're doing when you're doing that. And yeah, there were some things I hadn't thought about that go into, like, even though I'm testing foods and I help design packaging and all that kind of stuff, there's still, like, even for as much as I know about it, there's still like two steps behind that you don't even think about, maybe sourcing different stuff. And and some of the things I'll bring to light, which I don't want to ruin the whole talk, but things like that'll help me just in my marketing, or maybe with someone with a question, they go, hey, I bought spirulina flake one time and it was a dark green, and then the next time I bought it and it was a light green. I hadn't known that based on the time of the year is how dark spirulina algae will be, how much sunlight. It makes perfect sense. We run into that problem all the time with the plants we sell, right? During the summer, they're bigger and they might be even too big. They might be leggy. They might be flowering and people don't want that. And then in the winter, not as much light, more compact, denser growth, look better. And so, yeah, I hadn't really thought about that. I also didn't know that all of their spirulina is coming out of Arizona. So I thought that was kind of a cool thing. I mean, I know that all their products are made in the United States, but I don't know where spirulina would have come from. I just didn't expect it to be Arizona, I guess. So learned lots of little tidbits and facts and things like that. And if you're a member, highly encourage you to go watch that. Just, kind of put it on in the background, listen to it. That's what I was doing while working in the fish room. So do I still keep Shodenai puffers? No, I don't. They're currently in Dean's care. I don't think we've ever had to trim any of the beaks though, but we make sure we focus on feeding shelled foods. Any puffer that I have outside of a pea puffer, every day they're getting shelled foods, and a lot. It costs, I try to stress to people, especially if I ever go back to giving like puffer talks and stuff to clubs, I try to stress the cost level. Like, puffers are cool, but it's much more like getting a dog or something, in that you have to dedicated feed that thing every day, take it for walks, do all of this extra work, and not just, it gets a little more food like my other fish tanks do. It's like adopting a whole different type of pet, and with that comes the cost, right? And so, at this point, during shortage and stuff, which was like a clam shortage right now, in terms of the normal ones we'd buy frozen, we're going to buy them from grocery stores, and they're very expensive. And you're like, Ladybird's big enough and Murphy's big enough where we're having to go and test different species of clams, which ones are thick enough shells, which ones are too thick and they can't crack through them. And all of this is a lot of work, but there's a lot of reward with that as well. And so same thing with the Shodenai puffers, making sure you've got different snails breeding and clams and all of these things going on, so that hopefully by doing that, you won't have to trim down the beaks. Happy birthday, Tatronics. That's right. I scheduled these Sundays just because it was your birthday. Let's see. Any suggestions for a low-tech stem plants? Every stem plant I try turns to brown mush. I've tried Bacopa, I've tried Pennywort, Rotala, Water Sprite, and Luigia. So some of those are very easy, like Bacopa. Now, to get on the plant pedestal, make sure you're getting them from like a quality source, which, do your research. We might be one of those in your research, maybe a competitor. You also want to try and buy them non-bunched. If you're getting them bunched, they'll be very cheap. You can sometimes find them for $2 at a local fish store. But in that bunch, they're already starting to rot, and they're very, it's kind of like a folded up umbrella, right? Well, when the light shines on that, well, here's a better example. We're going to go into the analogy town now. So a bunch plant, it's a closed umbrella, and the light that it needs to catch to grow is like rain. So it's kind of like holding, a closed umbrella going, yeah, let's catch as much rain as we can. You're not going to catch very much, right? Where in a planted pot of plants, the stems are going to be separated, and allows it to fan out some more. So now you've got that open umbrella, and you're catching the rain or the light, and it's going to be able to actually catch some and grow. And that's what we're trying to do. So especially when you get a stem plant in your own home aquarium, another even better step would be to plant all the stems at least an inch apart. And so that's going to allow them to kind of open up and grow a little bit, let those leaves start to expand out and not be going over top each other, because they're all in this little zone. So now they can catch more light and absorb more nutrients, you're more likely to get them to grow. Now, let's say you were really low in light or you were having some other kind of, struggle that we don't know about yet. Another thing you can do is when you get a stem plant is take it out of the rock wool, or you don't even have to do that. You could clip the tops off and let them float. And if you've seen some of my videos where you'll see the roots starting to grow down out of the side, right? It's kind of weird where it's like, it's like a tree that's fallen over, and then the roots are still growing, out of the bottom of it. And so that sometimes will signify that if you take that, you plant it and it dies again, that you maybe don't have enough light. Could be you don't have enough nutrients. Like obviously a living thing needs, or a living plant needs light and nutrients and things like that. But without knowing more about the setup, that's usually where people are going wrong, is they might not be getting very healthy stock to begin with, or they're getting, the stock's getting a lot of trauma on the way. And then if it goes into a not optimal condition, it doesn't rebound, right? And so a lot of it is to just lessen the burden on travel, and then when it lands, give it the best home you have, and most plants will thrive without working on that. It's just, you buy a lot and hope that this transit's not as bad and that your tank was a little bit more hospitable to them, and it finally started working. So, yeah, that's what I got for stem plants for you, Bogsy. Let's see. Yeah, so today I have the window open because the camera is handling it okay. And, just kind of showing you guys that up here in this kind of crow's nest, I'm surrounded by nature. So as we're elevated, I'm kind of in the tree canopy. And I like to look out at birds and just nature in general. So, hey, there's Jimmy. Jimmy's in the chat. Everybody that asks me in the comments, like, where's Jimmy? What's he doing? I don't want to spoil what Jimmy is into now and doing, so you can ask him yourself, and if he'd like to respond, he can. I try to not break into the lives of employees too much, because I know myself, kind of being rogue and anonymous is pretty good, and not having everyone follow everything you do always is kind of nice. So I try not to impose that on the employees. Just haven't been able to super chat in a long time. Well, no worries. I didn't live stream for a while, so I've got a new tank. It's 13 days old. I've got high ammonia of 1.0. How can I help it? One, I would check out some of our guides. So we've got videos, we've got blog articles on how to cycle an aquarium. The ways that I would go about it, I'd use some live plants. That brings in some beneficial bacteria, can process some of that waste. So that's like a double whammy of goodness. And then maybe you water change and keep it at 0.5 or so, and let that bacteria just go through it. But in my opinion, the best way is to get some bacteria, whether that's from buying a plant from us in the pot. One of the reasons rock wool is so good is it has a lot of bacteria. Two, maybe you get a handful of gravel from your local fish store or a friend. Anything to like jumpstart that, because waiting is not the funnest. Yeah, you can use something like Fritzyme and add some bacteria in, and everything's on a plane of time, right? So like me, you saw the video today, maybe if you watched it, about setting up the aquarium rack. The reason we actually finished that Thursday. The reason it was so important to get that done was so that we could like have it marinating. I don't even like the word cycling, but getting seasoned. We could have it getting seasoned while I'm in Europe for a couple of weeks, right? So it's really easy. If you get things just going and then you kind of forget about it a bit, time flies, right? And so it makes it a lot easier to come back and, yeah, great, we're growing algae now, this is happening, we're ready to move on. And so that's what I've been trying to do and push to get it done. So, yeah, happy to say we got it. That's hilarious. So Jimmy says, been trying to learn how to finger roll this Aquarium Co-op green coin. It's always in my car and I practice while I'm driving. No joke. Friday night, I was scaring my dog because I kept dropping the coin because I was watching videos on how to do the finger roll, and I'm not good at it yet. But I was like, man, now that I have these coins, I really need to be able to do this because it's going to look cool. Well, not that I'm only trying to look cool, but I always think it looks cool and I wish I could do it. And I was like, man, if I could do that on the live stream, that'd be pretty cool to just be doing the coins. Oh, it's a little bit harder because they're bigger, but and they're a little heavier. So I should probably be trying with quarters, but um, yeah. My hair's super on point. This hair is straight up got out of bed and did nothing hair right here. That's how you can see like, oh, that's from sleeping right there. That's sleep hair. Yeah, you can't buy hair like this. Time. Like 6.5, 7.5 hours in bed, sitting at the right uncomfortable spot, or laying, sleeping in the right uncomfortable spot. That's how you get that hair right there. So, all right. So I bought a beautiful buse from my local swap. Guy had them on rock already for a great price. Am I a bad person as they're wild caught? That's a that's a no-win situation for a guy like me and you. You could go down a million scenarios, right? But what if you look at it from the optimistic standpoint? The glass is half full. So maybe you got a wild-caught specimen of a fish or a plant or whatever. If you make a bunch more and you propagate it and you pass it along to the next person, and that gets done and done and done and done and done, you might actually be helping, right? So abuse or any fish or plant would never be in the hobby at all, ever, if someone didn't take them out of the wild, right? Where do we really run into problems? We run into problems when they're mass collected without regard for nature. That's, and you might not even know, did that original one, was it collected sustainably, unsustainably? But you can at least start from the point that and that is your plant or fish in your aquarium. Could you give it a good life? Could you, maybe propagate it? Could you use it for good in teaching? Like all my Mubu puffers are wild caught, right? But they've been used to teach and brought a lot of joy to people and stuff like that. So, and I respect them as much as I can. And so it's always going to be a personal question for everybody. But I don't think you're a terrible person. Now, if you said, I bought it on a rock and I took it home and I put it straight into my garbage disposal, I'd be like, well, that's a pretty crappy thing to do, honestly. Like that's not even respecting, the fact that somebody else would have liked to have enjoyed that. Do you worry about quarantine for bringing fish in from the tubs in the summer? I'm particularly worried about internal parasites. Not really. The only thing that I'm afraid of when I bring fish in is like dragonfly larvae, nymphs. But as far as parasites go, not that much bird poop and stuff get in there. And I personally have never run into, an internal parasite problem coming in from my own tubs. So I'm not gonna say it's impossible, but I don't worry about it because I've yet to ever see it. I did many, many years of outdoor tubbing and never ran into it. And I actually have never talked to someone who's run into it yet. So I don't worry about it. I want to talk about kind of burning out. So Fish Tank Dad says suffering from burnout, but slowly getting my mojo back. So I had that going on too, and I wrote it down here because I figured it out. I was addicted to gaming, and so that's kind of actually a controversial headline. So it's not actually addicted to gaming, but my hobbies typically are gaming and fish. The problem is gaming is always more accessible than fish. So like maybe, like right now I still in my garage, I have the 125-gallon tank that needs to be put up. I need someone to grab the other end of that thing. Really, we have to remodel a little more to get it in the spot it needs to go. But there's usually a barrier for me working in my fish room. Whether it's just like, oh, I need to order that, or oh, I'm waiting on this, or for me, that you guys probably don't have is I need to film that. I can't just go in there and do it because it's like, well, if I do it, people are going to ask, how'd you do it? Why didn't you film it? Blah, blah, blah. With gaming, it'd be real easy to like do a bunch of work. So, yesterday was a good example. I worked from 10 a.m. till 9 p.m. on Saturday. And I was like, you know what? I've got more work to do, but this is not healthy. I really should do something besides work. And that much work quality starts going downhill. You start writing warehouse instead of warehouse, right, Candy? That's a little pre-chat thing. So I went and played the video game. Now, somehow I also don't want to start a aquatics project at 9 o'clock at night. I used to, by the way, way back in the day, I used to. But then I'm also like, well, all the lights have already gone off in the fish room, and I don't know. And then we had a guest, right? Um, but I stopped playing a game that I was playing, and I had no game to play. And so I'm just sitting there, I'm like, man, I'm kind of getting bored. Like, so what did I do yesterday? I listened to the Extreme Talk, and I worked in the fish room for a few hours. Nothing groundbreaking. I set up sponge filters. I put some lights on the new rack. I vacuumed. I fed all the fish. I set up a couple more Casa Wi-Fi timers. I ordered parts. Like just all these things that are like maintenance tasks and stuff like that. But it was because I afforded myself the option by not playing a video game because it's just really easy. And so I think this burnout thing sometimes happens when we don't realize that we found a better hobby and we'd rather be doing that. And I never thought about it that way. I've never thought, do I like fish tanks more than this video game? Or am I gonna go, should I go do my fish room or should I play this video game? Instead, it always starts as, well, I've been working real hard. Yeah, let me just take a break. I'll eat lunch, I'll play some video game. Pretty soon it's like 2 or 3 hours later, and then you're like, well, it's a little late in the day to be just start that project in the fish room. Maybe I'll do it a different day. And pretty soon it's been months, right? And it might be different for me because it is my job, my occupation. So there's still like, most people probably don't put in 12-hour days in their fish room once a week. Not that, I mean, some people do, but I'm saying most probably don't. Yeah. So anyway, evaluate your hobbies and maybe see if something else just caught your eye. Is it football season? Is it, nacho cook-offs? Is it, take and bake Papa Murphy's pizza? I don't know why all my hobbies are becoming food apparently, but I can't think of any more hobbies because all I do is work. How do you have the window open and a fire going? Well, I just have the blinds opened and the fire doesn't actually produce heat. It's a scam. It's a tactic to make you spend all your money with me. Although, give it like another month or two and that thing will be kicking out some heat because it will be a little cold, a little chilly up here. I'm looking to buy a house and I want to set up a fish room. What sort of things should I keep an eye out for when I'm searching for the house or the location? Definitely, I don't have any with me, but when I was shopping houses, I brought my Aquarium Co-op multi-test strip kit. At the time, it was a prototype, but even before that, I would bring Tetra test strips. And if I forgot, I would fill up a water bottle and take the water home. Because part of it, before I'd want to make an offer on a house, I'd want to know, is the water good? Because that's how important fish keeping is to me. Like, it's obviously my business, but even when I didn't, even when I didn't own a business, I still want to know that it was good. I read Jimmy's thing and it like sidetracked me. Is there a little bit of buzzing going on? Oh wait, maybe let me turn off this fan. Is it this fan doing it? Oh no, I know what it is. Well, could be this. Is it this? Let me turn it off. Did that fix it, Jimmy? Bueller? I probably have to talk because the noise gate will stop it, but I can't believe that's still going. Hold on. Okay, it's on its last leg. All right. I'm still impressed. I gotta retest this. This battery's been going forever. So this is actually, someone was asking me earlier if we were testing any new products or anything. This is actually a newer version of the air pump that we've been sold out of for a while. So why don't we have air pumps? Because we didn't like the first manufacturer. We didn't get along with them, so we're swapping to a manufacturer that we do like and that makes other products, electronics for us. And so a couple of upgrades. Oh, did it find? It literally just ran out of juice. That's hilarious. That it had got like from yesterday. It was a super long time. Anyway, Type C. So that's Type C plugin. It's gonna be good. And then, well, I was gonna. Let me see if I can plug this thing in now. Oh. Hey, I didn't finish. I'm gonna finish what to look for in a house. I just realized I totally sidetracked and didn't finish that question. So now we're charging this bad boy, and turn back on. Let me get mine. So what was I doing? I was playing with seeing how much the new pump, it puts out a little bit more air, and so I have this device that you guys could buy if you were a super nerd, which you're probably not, but this is a liter per, or a per, well, measures the LPM, liters per minute, and it's called a liter meter. And you see that ball that's hovering there? That's the amount of air it's putting out. So, am I at max? Let me see if I'm, no, that's, so another little feature this little dingy bobber's got is you can adjust the airflow. Oh, let me try right here. So now it's 2. Oh, come on. This is way harder to do while looking into a camera. So you can see it goes up to 5 levels. And then we're like 0.85 of a liter or so. So in testing, we actually want to get this stronger. So that's why we're still working on it. And yeah. But I've been testing. Stop it. It turned on when I unplugged it. So then also testing it for noise level. And then here we have, we're testing, so we're trying to make our own USB air pump. And so the ones that we sell right now, it's just a company that makes it. Now we're working with the same company that we work with electronics, and we're actually trying to make a better wheel, right? So this is the first prototype, and we're going to do some more prototypes of that USB nano air pump. This one's got a cord that goes for days, so that's that. We actually might try and make it Type C, because if you watched the video that Fish Room Fever made, he actually used an adapter and plugged it straight into his phone. So if we make a Type C, we could, people could do that really easy in a real pinch, right? And then also, I gotta take this thing off here. We're also testing, trying to make these things much more reliable with longevity and all that. If I can get this casing off of here. There we go. I almost broke it. And now we're putting in, this never had a circuit board before. So we're trying it with a circuit board to see if it will regulate it better and remain more stable for many, many more months and years. So again, longevity tests and that kind of stuff need to be done. And so stuff like that. We're currently stress testing and putting it through hell at the moment. Different people, like I think Steenfod Aquatics and Dean and me and other people, are putting it into harsh scenarios and trying to break them. And that's the hardest thing about products is, well, it's not breaking. And then you might find some other way to use it, and then they break it. So still working on it. And that's part of the stuff I do, is just sit here and test things. All right, now you're going to hear the buzz of the AC because I'm starting to sweat. If I can get it turned on. There we go. By the way, buy the Aquarium Co-op baseball t-shirt. I think we're real close to running out of some. We might have already run out of a size. Not sure. All right. Are we still looking for a photographer for products? Kinda. I found one candidate that maybe is good, but I haven't worked with them enough, and I'm getting real close to having to travel. So, yeah. Maybe there's still, the problem is we're really looking for someone who is kind of a professional, and it's not that you have to be a professional, but they'd have to be indistinguishable from wow, that looks really good. A pro has done that. And a lot of the submissions we've gotten so far is more yeah, you took it with a cell phone and you can still see blemishes and reflections we need to edit out and this and in the background. And really what we're looking for, if you've ever seen, like, if you're in product photography or you want to be, if you're not, if you haven't seen the Peter McKinnon videos where he's setting up intricate backgrounds and everything for the shots, that's what we're looking to do. There's a lot of people that are like, hey, I can take the shot on a white background. Yeah, we've got a studio set up to do that. We're looking for someone that has the ability to take the picture, but then also has the brain capacity to go, ooh, I'm going to spend 4 hours crafting the backdrop to make this coin look good, right? Yeah, you'd already know the lighting. You'd already know the aperture we're going to use and things like that. And so we're waiting for someone who just like wants to live, eat, and breathe our products that much. We haven't found that yet. Vivarium, I will be there both days, Saturday and Sunday. We should have a booth. I think it's going to be at the creator booth or something like that. There'll be some other people there besides myself. I believe Danny's Aquariums will be there. Chris Lukup, who maybe you've seen speak on shrimp. There's a couple other creators. I'm not sure if everyone who's locked in, so I don't want to mention them and then be like, oh, well, they said they would, 2 months ago. Turns out they're busy, right? And so I don't want to, speak for them and then have you show up and be like, you said, yeah. I'm currently acting manager at my fish store and want to know any of your top tips. I'm always trying to do it the co-op way. Well, there's probably a million and one things, right? But I would say the mantra for me is this best for the customer? Like in every situation. That's the first question to ask. Is this best for the customer? Then, if that's yes, then it becomes, sorry, something in my throat. Then it becomes, is this also good for the business? Right? Because obviously you can't be like, well, if I sell this, 180 gallon tank for $1, that's really good for the customer. Oh, but it's really bad for the business. But I start with that because too often people are starting with, is this good for the business? But it's the customer. If you can keep the customer happy, then everything is easier. And so, whether it's carrying products, whether it's selling a fish, whether it's offering refunds, whether it's the way the store looks, is this the best for the customer? And that's where things like, at our retail store, we're testing a bench because I don't know why in my life everything's tested. Literally, like every product I test, because I'm always looking for the best. I don't know why. We're testing a bench in front of the retail store. If we started with, is this good for the business? The answer is no. It's $1,000 bench that doesn't make us any more money. Now, if we start with, is this good for the customer? Yes. There's people that might need to sit down because the store's busy and they're waiting to get in. There might be that a couple comes in, one cares about fish, one doesn't. They want to sit outside and enjoy the weather. All of these things could happen where it's good for the customer and not good for the business. Now, we start with customer, they need somewhere to sit. Whether it's a kid having a meltdown, they need to go outside and, kind of, hey, we're at the store, we need to calm down. That's a good place to do that, right? So we start with the customer. Now we go, okay, for the business, $1,000 is not great, but we think if we make a better environment, it will be better for the business, right? And then we actually keep going down something that's called the cascade of choice that I wasn't aware until I worked with other people. But then we also, go down and we go, well, is it good for the environment? So yeah, it's all recycled plastic. We like that. We're also testing to see if there's like a bunch of graffiti before we order some more. But the mantra I would say is it good for the customer? Which your boss is going to tell you, is this good for business? But they're missing out that it has to be good for the customer first, then it has to be good for the business, then it'll work. Yeah, the win-win-win principle. Yep. I guess eventually I'm sure that'll live somewhere on the website, and I'll try to document a little more of what we're doing. And I'm working with I'm going to call it a business consultant to really map out what it is that Aquarium Co-op is about, not only for myself, but for customers and the business, right? Because as we gain more and more employees, we want to make sure that everyone's working with the same ideals and the same goals, and does this accomplish the same thing, and not find out like, well, what do you mean that we're selling, wild caught use, and when we would never do that, right? Not knowingly, we'd want it sustainable and all of that, and so we just want to make sure that is that way. Jimmy says commercial product photography is super hard, not for the faint of heart. It takes a mind for design. Yeah, and don't get me wrong, we have Jimmy, we have Lizzie, we have Zenzo. I've got other people. I can take a decent photo, but really it's the time that people don't realize that a good shot for, and so I should quantify this. Most shots you'll ever see with someone trying to sell you something is not a good shot. A good shot, though, might take 6 hours, right? And you're going, well, yeah, but when I go look at products, sometimes I'll have 10 photos. Like, yeah, but when you think about it, if you're going to sell something for the next 50 years, what's 60 hours to get the perfect pictures, right? And that's what we need, is the perfect pictures that really tell the story. And like, well, just to get that picture, you'd have to set up an aquarium, and you'd have to do this, and you have to do that, and you'd have to get the right people, and you'd have to get the right plant grown at the right stage, and you'd have to get the right lighting, and you'd have to get the right fish to complement that plant. You'd have to get, and it's like, yeah, but that's what it would be like in someone's home. And that's what we need to show, not the plant just on the white background, which we would have now. And so the scope of what we're looking to do is so astronomical and big that, it's just a big task to take on. Can I speak fluent German, or have plans to learn it? I don't, unfortunately. I can't speak any, really. Yeah. If I was going to learn another language, it would probably be Mandarin. But I only want to learn a language in person. And so I've looked around all the community colleges and stuff around me. They're not offering in-person, like, beginner Mandarin classes. So I haven't started yet. Where in the cascade does this make Candy's life more or less difficult? It's actually pretty high up there, because making Candy's life more hard or more difficult is actually almost in the same realm as, is this good for the customer? Is this better for the customer? And so, like, we've been working with some copywriters. And so what a copywriter is, if you guys don't know, they're the ones that take, like, well, like, here's my here's the instruction manual or whatever for my AC unit, the Honeywell. They would take something like this and go, well, how do we make this so that you might actually want to read about it on a product page, and it highlights the right things about it and all of that. And so we have people writing copy, and then we review it and all of that, obviously. And does it make you want to buy it? Does it tell you all the things about it? Does it, lead to less customer service questions? That's one of the criteria I have when I'm reviewing it, is like, if you say it this way, you're omitting something people are going to ask. Let's go ahead and address that from the get-go. And so one of those might be, you guys have, if you've been watching the channel a long time, an example of that would be the fact that the product label and a bullet point and all of that on Easy Green would say fish, plant, and invertebrate and snail safe, right? Because that's one of the most asked questions about it every day. Is it going to kill my shrimp and snails? And so making sure that when we do the copy of a product, we're trying to anticipate the questions, and then as we keep getting questions, we go back and change the copy to hopefully alleviate that. Now, by doing that, does that make Candy's life easier? Yes, but it goes back to the original thing of, is it best for the customer? Yes, the more questions I can answer out of the gate and make you feel comfortable about buying a product, the better it is for you. If you're on our website looking to buy products, let me help you do that, right? That's my job. Caleb is teaching himself Russian. Crazy kid. Shta? I grew up with some Russian friends, and I think I only ever learned like 3 words ever. I don't even think I learned swear words. I just remember, I think shta means what? I think I tricked when I went and we visited that big African cichlid facility. Um, that gentleman was Russian, and I think he said, "Do you speak Russian?" I said, "Shta," and he spoke to me in Russian. I was like, "I'm just kidding. I don't speak any Russian, really." So, oh, it's "shto," not "shta." See, yeah, I don't even know what I think I know. How's my Spanish? I'll say this. In high school, the foreign language I took was Pascal and C++. plus plus. So I took coding languages because I was allowed to instead of a foreign language. I wish I had taken foreign languages. I use coding maybe not every day, but nearly every day in my work right now. I'm always coding a little something or evaluating someone else's code or looking at how an app is working on the website going, no wonder the code's not playing right here. Let me get someone else to fix that. Before it goes on much longer, it's been staring me in the face, and I keep going, yeah, after this one, I gotta acknowledge it. Alexander Engelhart with 50 Aquarium Co-op memberships, rock solid supporter. He's right up there with many of you, but the ones that stick out in my brain would be Alex and Daryl Deemer or Dimer. I don't even know how to say it correctly, but there's been a lot of people that support us a long time, many years, both buying from us, both super chats, both in person, and I don't want to go through a long list, but those are the two that came through my mind right away. Any plans on doing a brine shrimp sieve like Dean has? It's on the clearly, by the way, clearly I think Jimmy didn't watch the live stream last week because I kind of talked about this. It's on a long development timeline. Yeah, right now, no. Basically, I want to see a good, um, I want to see a good version or find the right vendor partners to work with, and then we'll work on it. Because you can have a great idea, but if you can't find the right partners, it's so much of a headache. Basically like our first air pump, the wrong company, like they made a product and it works fine, but working with them is such a struggle that it's not worth it. So, yeah, I want to find a good partner that would either work with the type of micron meshing or they're already building a product that I want to scale up. Kind of like this. This makes some. We want him to scale him up, but he's like, "No, you're dumb. No one's gonna want him like that." And I'm just like, "Why do you have to make this so difficult? We sell the crap out of your stuff. Just make us what we want instead of you make what your version of it and then try to force it on us." Like, dang you. I've got a 40-gallon with a breeding pair of angelfish and heavily planted, 80 degrees. What else could breed in there? Dang near anything. You got, a lot of room. More pairs of stuff typically prey on the fry, though. So if you have a pistos, they're going to eat each other's fry. You might be able to do something like bristlenose plecostomus, corridor eggs if you're going to harvest them. But for the most part, when you're breeding, if you're willing to remove fry or eggs, you can, breed a lot of stuff in one tank. So is that why the website's so good? I don't know. I actually think our website is bad. There's a website I lust after, and let me see if I can show you guys. I want our website to be as polished as this website. It has nothing to do with fish. I really love this website. Let me see if I can find it, and I'll show it to you guys. I gotta spell it right. Is it this one? Yeah, this website right here. Oh, I gotta. It's gonna geek out and look bad, I think, at the beginning, and then I'll fix it. Yeah, see, it's like, oh, I don't know what website to do. Let me get the right source here. Right here. This website, I think, is one of the best done websites that I've ever seen. And it's not just because, ooh, that looks pretty. I don't even like licorice, but I like the way that this website, from a brand standpoint, like, and what am I trying to say? Like the whole encompassing thing, everything looks on brand, the colors are right, all the imagery you can tell has been thought out and done in a meaningful way. Um, yeah, you're going, oh, well, that's just the candy on the white backdrop. You're like, that's what you said you didn't want to do. But then, like this GIF right here, this little video, and the way this is done, and the packaging, and all of this, it just really, like, they've only got to sell basically one product, and that makes it easier than selling a wide array of products. Like, it's licorice in different flavors, right? As opposed to, how do you set up to sell a plant, but then you got to sell, a sponge filter, and then you got to sell, a piece of equipment and a light. Like, all those are very different. But it's just very, very well done from the way the website is kind of put together, and the right uses of color, and the red being brought in to the branding. And I just feel like this website, while simple, is actually very artistically, it's very pleasing. It makes you, I think you feel and you understand what this brand is about, as in terms of, you're not, like, oh, why is this so good and then this is bad, and then this was like, where our own website is very disjointed. And so that's why I've really been focusing on it. I've known about this website for like over a year, and I just really like the simplicity of the navigation through their products. I don't know why it's running. Well, their speed is very slow, or much slower than I would like. Like, it shouldn't take this long to load. So they're using a lot of heavyweight apps and stuff to make some stuff happen, or it breaks altogether. Like, that's not good. Let's try it again. But yeah, in general, really enamored with this website just from the way it's done. I mean, even like, look, the lighting on this picture is so even on these, right? Everything's lit up, the shadows are correct, which, if you're not taking product photography, you don't understand how hard this is. Like, they took the top down shot. You don't see the reflection of the camera at all. You don't see any outside light. It's not too bright on the bottom. It's not too dark in the shadows. About the only thing you could really improve is like this piece of black licorice right here. It's like, there's a little bit too much going on. But for the most part, shot really, really well. And yeah, so I lust after this website. That's the level of nerd I am at this point. I literally am analyzing licorice websites, going, how could we be the Aquarium Co-op of this? How do we do this? Recently, I read an article about salvinia being very invasive and causing issues in Texas and Florida. They are directly blaming our hobby. Any thoughts? Yeah, I mean, it could be true. The I think it would be hard pressed to go, oh, it was the aquarium hobby. It could have been the pond hobby, all the same. But yes, probably we're partly to blame. What I also find, who wrote the article? What's the narrative, right? And so it could be like, salvinia is killing Texas. And then, but the science might show that if salvinia wasn't killing Texas, the duckweed that was there before was killing Texas, right? And I don't know, right? But I'm just saying that sometimes it's misleading. So are we probably a little bit responsible? Yeah, we enjoy live plants. So, that's the thing. But at the same time, the hobby might also be responsible for less and less people destroying the environment. So there's always give and take with almost about anything in the world. This is exactly what I've been trying to say to the owner of my company. Instead of hiring a photographer, he wants to just pay for artificially rendered images. Yeah, there is a big difference between just getting an image and someone putting art into an image. And I am the least artistic person ever. I can recognize when someone else has done art. I go, wow, that's pretty neat. The skill that it would take to do that is immense. Versus like me, where I'm like, I can do the nuts and bolts of, yep, I can definitely take the picture of a white background because that's a formula, that's a set of circumstances to get there. That's not, you know, that's not the artistic. Ooh, what would make that look better? Like I with our products, I can't decide, should we be for a background base? It's like, oh, is it natural woods? Is it more like outdoor naturey? Should it be more like weathered wood? Should it be more like burlap sack as the base before you build the other things um, to take the picture? So I don't know. That's where I need someone else's design eye of creating a look. I can create the product. I can do a lot of that, but yeah. Corey, I didn't understand what using the skinnier cinder blocks in the middle of the rack does. Can I explain why we did that? That's from today's video. So, the skinnier blocks, all they do is they're 6 inches wide instead of 8 inches wide. What that allowed me to do on that rack with a 10-foot board, right? The tanks themselves are 2 feet wide. We put 4 of them. So that's 8 feet, right? Now, if you use 3 blocks, they're normally 8 inches. 8, 8, and 8 is 24. Now you have a 10-foot board, 8 feet of tanks, and 2 feet of blocks. There's no wiggle room at all. You now make that be a 6-inch block. You have an inch in each bay to give your tanks a little bit of wiggle room. Because when you fill up an aquarium, they bow a little bit. Glass or acrylic, they bow a little bit with that water pressure. You also might get the boards flexing a little bit. And if you don't have any wiggle room at all, you start putting pressure in points you don't want. So by going with that brick that's a little bit narrower in the center, it gave us that, we would call it that cheat room. We can cheat it a little bit. But perhaps if you were using a different style of tank or a longer or shorter board, you could use all 8-inch, or maybe you would need to use all 6-inch, right? Just depends. Take the co-op, or take a photo of the co-op net on a bed of duckweed. Yeah. So glad you got Extreme Aquatics food to market and sell their food. Yeah, Andy's actually flying over here to talk some more business on Tuesday. We'll see where we're going to go with them. I think it's going to be good things, but I'm a hard guy to work with. I'm always trying to push and do more and that kind of stuff. And we'll see if they want to come along for that ride, which I think they do. But a lot of what we do, and I think he said it best, is we just need to have that meeting face to face and do the handshake agreement. Because when you get into business with someone, it's difficult. There's a lot of money on the line. There's people's livelihoods on the line, and even if you write a great contract, people screw each other all the time with contracts. You end up in court, and so if you're going down the same path with someone, you want to make sure that in 5 years people are both happy and not one person's happy or both people are unhappy. And yeah, the heater's sold out, a new 50-watt size. In theory, tomorrow we'll be unloading a cargo container and all the heaters will be restocked. And yes, there is a new 50-watt size. And yes, it won't say EL anymore. It'll have a little yellow dot that comes on after 2 years. Yeah, and there's 4 other products as well that'll be hitting the website, hopefully. You don't need a fancy website and photos when your products speak for themselves. Yeah, it's optimization, right? Like let's say right now 2 out of 10 people that visit the website buy a product. With the right copy, maybe now it's 3 out of 10. And with the right photo, maybe it's 4 out of 10, right? And to get to the 2, we had to have the reviews and the reputation and that kind of stuff. And it's playing a very hard game. If you're not into website sales and stuff, you wouldn't know that 80+% of all carts are abandoned. So 8 out of 10 people will never purchase from us, no matter how much they like us or anything like that. So you're doing everything you can to go, it's not that I'm trying to bamboozle you, it's that maybe I didn't explain your pain point correctly, right? And so if I'm telling you that Easy Green is very easy and that doesn't resonate with you, you don't buy it. But if I also explain that Easy Green is also easy, but we've also added lots of potassium in it to really grow Anubias really well, and you were having struggles with Anubias, now you're likely to buy that product, right? And if you were to say like, well, I didn't have problems with Anubias and I don't need it to be easy, I want it to be good, explaining that like, oh, we have iron in ours, and ours is a complete fertilizer versus some competitors that aren't complete. That may get that customer, right? And then explaining that, oh, I want my plants to be more red. Well, if we do a good job explaining that really that comes down to mostly lighting and some iron, and the Easy Green has iron, we're likely to pick up that customer. And so you have to keep going down to these thousands of scenarios to keep converting people, because everyone's got a different problem. Maybe you're buying new shoes because your feet hurt. Maybe you're buying new shoes because your shoes have worn out. Maybe you're buying new shoes because you need a different look because you have to go to a different type of event. Maybe you're buying new shoes because your doctor said you need to rotate them because you're wearing the same pair every day. Like, there's all these scenarios, and you have to speak to each one. And sometimes it's easier to do that in picture than it is in text. So, yeah. I'm only buying stuff you slap Dean's face on it. Fair point. Yeah. There'll be a certain amount of customer that would just do that as well. I'm cleaning filters and listening to the stream. I recall how you said one day that most aquarium products made are not used by the people who design them. Yeah. I mean, if you ever get the chance, start really talking to product designers at some of these shows. Usually it's going to be things like, why can my brain not comprehend it? I was just there in Germany. What did I go to? I went to, clearly I didn't sleep enough. It's not Bavarian, that's where I'm going. Anyway, you talk to them and you realize they designed the product, but they've never installed one at their home. And that's the thing. Like, trying to think, like, if you've ever built anything in your life, like, have you ever ordered, like, maybe had a bathroom remodeled, or you helped build a shed, or just anything like that? Well, okay, maybe like IKEA is a better example. If you've ever bought something from IKEA and put it together, by the time you've put it together, you know a whole lot more about how to put it together. But then after you use it for 6 months to a year, you know exactly that if you were going to buy another one, you would want feature XYZ. Is it like, oh, the drawer closes too loud, or it started leaning, or, and that's the thing, by using it, you already know how to make it better next time. And that's all I do is I go, hey, I use this type of product a lot of times. What are the things that, it's like I stub my toe on week after week. Okay, let's make it not do that. That's all we're doing. And by doing that time over time, products get better. And that's, and you guys have seen that we've launched the first Interzoo. Yes, Interzoo. Geez, that was the event I went to. But like the first auto feeder wasn't good enough. So we launched a new one. Now the new one's really good. There's going to be, well, I shouldn't say there's going to be, highly likely there'll be another auto feeder. I want to upgrade it to Type C. So at some point, maybe like 14 months down the road, when we sell through all the ones in production right now and all that, they'll come through and like, look, we'll be on version 3, but it'll have, it'll have Type C, a little bit better, just a little bit better. And then by then I might go, you know what? I would like this too. So it's even a little bit better. We're only just trying to be the company that continually improves, even on our own stuff. Where a lot of companies go, why? Are we going to make more money? And the answer is probably no. But it goes back to that original thing. Is it better for the customer? I believe inherently, if it's better for the customer long term, it will be better for the company. And so that's why we'll upgrade a product that is selling out and doing just fine and make it just a little bit better. Andrew says, I love that CChem, everyone has an aquarium in their office. They use their own products. Technically, yes. You know, so when I grill them on their products, just because they use them doesn't mean they understand them or they help design them. So the difference might be, let me think about how to say this eloquently. Let's say we had an employee and we mandated everybody has to have an aquarium if they work for us. And they go and they pull our heater off the shelf, they plug it in, they set it to 78. And then that's all they ever did with it. Do they understand that product? They don't, right? Do they know all the ins and outs and the features and all of that? They don't. So if you don't know all of that, it's really hard to make it better, right? There's a big difference between, forcing everybody to like have something and people wanting to make it better and understand it and do all that. So I still applaud them because having an aquarium in your office is just good company culture, right? And we see that in wholesalers and stuff like that too, where it I don't know how to articulate this correctly. It's like doing your part to try and look the look without actually doing the work. And I'm sure there's, let's say there's 50% of people that are the most hardcore aquarists and everything that work there, and they're awesome. But then you also meet people that like, well, yeah, I just had to set one up. Yeah, there's that thing right over there, right? And so I do applaud them though, because even that's the first step. You can at least know more about a product by physically having one. That's true. How long would you product test before placing it on the market? That's a good question. It depends on the product, right? Like a food, maybe that only takes at the very minimum, right? Like a month. Maybe you're like feeding the food, they're just going ape for it, they love it, all of that, and you know the ingredients, and you're like, it's unlikely that that it would cause damage long term. Yeah. Or if it's like a heater where like, yeah, these pretty much always are dying after a long period of time, and when they do fail, it could kill all the fish. Something like that takes a lot more testing, right? Because when it fails in a catastrophic way. Where like food, if it was to fail, like let's say at 3 months in it gets moldy, or it has lost all its nutrients, stuff like that. It's not necessarily catastrophic. You go, oh, throw that out. And yeah, you might lose sales and it might, there might be X, Y, and Z wrong with it, but it won't be catastrophic. Like an aquarium, if it was to let go, that could be catastrophic. I'm trying to think. Yeah, so it depends on the product itself, I would say. Like an ornament, you might want to let it sit in water for a long time, keep testing water parameters. Like if it doesn't leach anything after a month, you're probably good. Okay, we're at 3 months, we're at 6 months. But for us, the way we build products and stuff or test them, most times, like, do I have another test product in here at all? I don't know that I do besides these air pumps. But like the air pumps, the reason why this one was still going is I intentionally try to abuse it and just go like, is it going to lose settings? Does the battery wear down over time? Is it getting louder? One of it was I took it apart, I took pictures, I documented, I looked at it. And so even though like we're testing this one, there's changes we want to this. I want the buttons to work a little different. I want the sequencing to work a little different. Hopefully we can make it a little bit stronger without increasing. So part of my job is, having a dB meter. So I can go like right now with me talking, it's 77 with the AC. We're at that, right? And this was at like 44, which I really would like it to get it down more about 40, but if we could keep it at 44 and get twice as much air volume, that'd be great also. So a lot of times what we'll have happen is like with lighting and stuff, we might have 6 or 7 different versions set up on aquariums, and they're all running just to see if any of them fail. Because if we watch one fail, we might go, "Ooh, okay, we fixed that. That's not gonna be a problem." We're like, "Ooh, how did that happen?" And so something like the light, like the current light we're on, even though we've been testing lots of lights, this current one we're probably like, I don't know, 8 months into this very current one. And by the time it actually launches, we'll have been testing it for, I don't know, 11 months. Yeah. And at some point, you know, like 11 months is kind of a long time, because that's how we get beat to market a lot of times. We'll start testing, we'll make it better. Another company will launch it, we'll make it better after they've launched it, and they won't even know because they're just launching the one thing. And then we'll look like we'll copy it. Meanwhile, we've been doing iterations and making it better, and they actually copied our first change, because sometimes in China that's how it goes. Of like, yeah, just anyone can do a thing. Bulk reef supply would test products and have reef tanks in their offices. So when I was reefing, I would go with them. Yeah, that's a great example of another company that tests a lot of products. They're making products. They do a bunch of that, and they also do tests, and they publish those tests on YouTube videos for you. Like, I think that's a very good thing, and I think at the minimum a manufacturer should be doing that. I mean, we try to. I try to, you guys pretty much know we're working on something for years sometimes. And then I usually try to say, what was the trials and tribulations? What did we fix? What went wrong? I try to do as much of that as I can, so that way you guys, one, it builds trust, but two, you know how we got there. Why'd you do this? I don't like that feature, right? Well, we got there because of X, Y, and Z. That's why. API leaf zone versus CChem. If I was going to pick one of those two competitor products, I would probably use the API leaf zone, just because it's like cheaper and more concentrated. That being said, it's like I would always pick my own fertilizer because it's way more concentrated and a better value for your money, in my opinion. But if I was in a country stuck and I had to choose between those two, I'd probably just use the API leaf zone. Not that it's great, but it's better. I think it's better than the Flourish. Like when we used to get Flourish free for selling their product, right? And so we'd get every 6 months, you get based on how much you sold and how much you carried in the store, you'd get X amount of free gallons, right? And so we might get like 6 or 7 gallons worth of stuff. We could pick Prime, we could pick Fertilizer, we could pick Stability, we could any of their liquid products, right? And so we would usually take it we'd take like half in the CChem Flourish and half in Prime. We'd sell the Prime off because we didn't need that much Prime, right? And then the CChem Flourish, we would dose at 17 times the recommended dose to get our plants to actually thrive in the sales tanks. And after doing that for a while, that's when I decided we really have to make our own fertilizer. Like, this is getting out of control. So yeah, that's kind of one of the reasons it came to be, the Easy Green. But it was literally 17 times. When you look at it and you actually compare, it's funny when a customer or just someone at a glance, you look at it, you're like, yeah, this has 0.07, and they're not realizing that like the product they're comparing to has 0.7. And so there's some charts out there that fans have made and stuff where it compares the potency of different products and stuff, and you can see, lots of blends are different, but you can see that ours is really potent in comparison, but there's other products that are very potent in comparison to ours too. I've basically gone as far as you can go without getting people into trouble. I don't want to be using but ammonia-based fertilizer. I don't want it to be super detrimental if their plants aren't growing very well. I don't want it to be detrimental to the fish because we're putting in such heavy loads of nutrients. Yeah. Do I think Stability is a good product? Yeah, it's pretty good. I use the Fritz one because I visited their facility and I've seen them making the bacteria and everything, and so seeing is believing for me, and so I prefer that one. But I would wager Stability's got a fairly similar process somewhere in a factory I haven't seen. Could we ever have easy green without nitrates? Maybe someday. Unlikely. Just because it makes, so that would be like, okay, it's good for the customer. Is it good for business? Not really. It starts confusing the average customer. When you and so you guys that are in chat aren't the average customer. The average customer is, I own an aquarium. I've had it for 8 months. My plants aren't doing so well. What do? I've bought 11 different fertilizers from 4 different companies. Nothing makes it work. How can you teach me to be successful? And so that's our target demographic. And so if you're at a point where you're like, well, I really don't need the nitrates. I need more phosphate. I need this. I need that. I need this. You should probably be making your own fertilizer or dosing dry ingredients. That's because once you start getting to there, you've taken away the easy part of easy green, right? Then you just have green. So, and we're focused on the easy. Now I just need to find the best potassium option. So either dry fert potassium or things like I actually do kind of like the CChem products like potassium, phosphate, nitrite. All of those are in fairly decent concentrations. It's only their kind of mixes, the macros and the micros, that aren't very potent. But the ones that are just the single chemicals of them are fairly potent. I'd like to buy some co-op fertilizer, but I'm in Canada. We ship to Canada. You can buy it from us. You're one of the few lucky countries. I picture you using a measuring cup to dose flourish and a 20 long. At the time we were using it was how many times we'd break down the 40 gallons, and it's how many times did we have to fill the Aquarium Co-op shot glasses per aquarium is what we were doing. Because it's, I think they would dose up to 35 milliliters at a time. And yeah, how many of those? Let's see here. Does an aqua soil in mesh bags under the substrate capped with sand really work like MD Fish Tank says it does? I haven't seen his video, so disclaimer. But in theory, yes. I'm not sure exactly what his claim is, but think of it like if you had a bag of aqua soil, right, in a mesh bag. It's kind of like a giant root tab. And you go and you place this thing, boom, there it is. All the plant roots that can make their way to it will tap in and suck the nutrients out back to the mother plant. So yes, it is kind of like a giant root tab. Just pick the way you want to get there. Do you want to buy aqua soil and do it that way? Do you want to use root tabs? Do you want the flexibility? Is the tank already set up and you have to do a major rehaul? Everything has a usability though. So like that giant bag might last you 4 years and then it's depleted. You have to replace it. How easy or hard will that to be to do? Whereas like root tabs are made to kind of always be supplementing, and so it shouldn't be too disruptive to your overall tank. But in general, it always comes back to nutrients. As long as the plants are getting the nutrients, they're going to do what you want them to do. You can pick how you deliver them. I mean, you could even go old school, cheap way and make yourself mud. So go get some, dirt from outside. You make mud, you freeze it in an ice cube tray, and then you take that ice cube and you sink it down under the substrate where, where that plant is. It'll melt, and then it'll leave the dirt there, and now you've got nutrients, right? But if you ever lift that plant up, then, oh man, now I've got dirt on the top. It looks bad. The water's clouded, all of that kind of stuff. So everything's going to have pros and cons. I just want to do a comment. Someone asked me, why don't you talk about lava rock more? Lava rock is amazing. It's cheap. It's widely available. But the problem with lava rock is in terms of like filter media is that there's a wide variety. So depending on how the lava rock, is it very porous, or it's more like, the pores didn't form right. It's more like just kind of a rock. And then the sizing. The thing that's the hardest about it is the cleaning. Once it gets clogged up, it's really hard to clean. And so, Have I used it? Yes. Could I recommend it? Yes. Should you use it? Maybe. Pick a method. Like I like bio rings because they're smaller and they're easier to fit in, and I find them easier to boil and clean, and they're readily available. And if I buy 5 packs, they're all the same. Whereas, like, if I go and buy a thing of lava rock from like a hardware store, I got to sort through it. I got to clean it a bunch because it's going to be super duper dirty. And then I could start using it. I can get it going. And yeah, it'll give me some results. So a lot of the hobby is just picking what is the way you want to do it. It's kind of like picking a car. Any vehicle will get you to work, right? The trick is, how do you want it to look like? How do you want it to drive? How efficient do you want it to be? How much do you want to pay? Right? You could then add a little, a little bit of extra things like, oh, you have to haul lumber. Maybe you want a truck. You got 22 kids. Maybe you need a van, right? So there are some things that will influence your decision, but at the end of the day, you need a vehicle to get you from point A to B. You just need to pick, well, how am I going to get there? You need to get plants some nutrients. How are you going to get there? I'm going to use liquid fertilizer. I'm going to use root tabs. I'm going to use soil. I'm going to use aqua soil. I'm going to use natural soil from outside. I'm going to use fish poop. I'm going to use, right? A lot of ways. Let's see. The bags are very hard to replace because the roots get into them. Good point, Tiago. I hadn't thought about that fully, that it would be like an underground filter or something like that, where the roots would penetrate and really, to take that out. It's almost like a wabikusa, where you're going to have to really, you probably have to get in there and just cut all the way around that bag to be able to pull that essentially root ball out. So, might be difficult, but, so it's like, is that hour-long thing more or less work than putting in root tabs for the last 4 years? Cost effectiveness. You got to weigh all these things, right? Yeah. Good point, though. And that's why I always try to give those disclaimers of like, on the spot thinking through it, there's always more to a story of like, yeah, what about, I can't seem to get nitrates below 20 ppm even after water changes. Is 20 parts per million still okay for fish? Yes, I recommend keeping parts per millions between 20 and 40 always in a planet tank. So, 20 has never served me wrong so far. What fish would you put in with 4 Amazon puffers and a 40 breeder or a 75-gallon tank? I'd probably do something like an ember tetra. Something that schools around, not corridors necessarily, but just something mid-water that would show them that, hey, it's safe to come out and swim. And also we're kind of quick and just would eat food easily. All right. Ugh. Put my knee up here, get a little comfortable. Does the Aquarium Co-op auto feeder have a fan built in? Why or why not? No. Mostly because I'm not sure that technology actually makes a difference. That's really the reason. Would it maybe in the future? Maybe. What is the fan supposed to do? Maybe that's a better place to start. The fan is supposed to, so here's the principle, and then I haven't actually done the testing, so I don't know. But the theory behind it, you've got a feeder, you've got water, right? The feeder spins, drops some food out. In theory, the food coming out would create a vacuum and some air would go in. The theory would be that the air above the water is humid. So it spins, 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 spin. You now have some humid air in the container that could cause problems for the food. Now, in practice, I've actually never had that scenario in my fish rooms, in my house, or anything like that. I live in Washington, not crazy, crazy humid, but in general, everywhere I have my tanks, I don't want them to be super humid. They add humidity to the air, so I dehumidify in some way in all of those instances. Sometimes it's the fact that I have to run heat because it's cold, and that process dries my air out, and so therefore, I don't have to add a humidifier to my whole house heating system. I just have aquariums, right? That's actually one of the reasons I'm setting up an aquarium in our bedroom, is that the humidity will not make my mouth as dry, my skin won't be as dry, that kind of stuff. But when it comes from the fan part of it, in theory, the same gears that are turning to rotate this, it might be a gear this big. If you hook it up to a real small gear, it could blow a little bit of air through there. And so the theory would be that you've got a feeder, and here's the water, and here's the spinning drum. If we pull air from 6 inches away, that air would be drier than the air that it's picking up down here. That's the theory. That being said, I have a hard time trying to say, like, is that working? So I have this thing of like, just because something does a thing doesn't mean it helped, right? So if this coin doesn't, let me try to think of a thing it doesn't need to do. If this coin doesn't bend when using to lift up an engine, does it ever need to do that though? Like, no. So it's not really a selling point. So again, if food without a little fan has never had a humidity problem for me, adding a fan, is that a benefit? The answer to me is not necessarily. Now, some people have asked me, hey, I want to put it outside on a deck, or I want to try, because then it's not humidity controlled. And so I could see ways I'd approach it, and I go, okay, well, it might be, using a different food. It might be, I'm trying to think of different ways in which I could develop a feeder that would be less susceptible to humidity. Like one of the feeders I buy that's like $125, it actually has a little thing that like kind of grinds through it. So even if you had this clump of food, it would kind of mush it up for you, right? But yeah, so I haven't done it mostly out of, I haven't had a need. And you guys get all the pros and the cons of my product development from that. So if I've never had a need, I don't develop it. If I do have a need, I do fix it though. And so you're at the mercy of, like if I lived in the desert, you'd probably see me developing like a way to cool down tanks easier and better. But since I don't really have that problem, I don't focus my attention on that problem. So the good news is, because I'm in the hobby and I focus on things that, I stub my toe on, you guys get the benefits of that. If I don't run into the same problems you run though, I'm likely to never fix that. All right. What type of fertilizer does a newbie prefer, liquid or root tabs? It primarily will feed off the water column, but the roots will tap into the substrate and can get food there also. Most plants, I basically explain to people in a very general terms, there's a 25-75. So 75% of the nutrients will come from one method and 25 from the other. And so from a stem plant, you might get 75% out of the water, 25 out of the gravel or the substrate. And from like a crypt, you'll get 75%, and an Amazon sword, 75% out of the gravel or the substrate and 25% out of the water. So, both kinds still benefit, but one is a preferred versus non-preferred. Which Metrio works best? Your old API with ICX or your current Fritz with ICX? I only ask because API is easier for me to get. It should be the exact same for you, Salient. The active ingredients are the exact same. The only reason I prefer Fritz is because API as a company is a train wreck to deal with, and 2, Fritz is better like price per gallon treated, and then also Fritz actually does stuff for the hobby, or API doesn't really, from at least all the events and stuff I attend. But in terms of which one would be better, they're the exact same active ingredients, so you should notice no difference between the two. Well, I shouldn't say no difference. I actually like Fritz better a little bit from the way it dissolves into water, but there's no real difference. Like if tomorrow I had a sick fish and I could only get access to one or the other, it wouldn't matter. They would both fix the problem. It's that car scenario, right? If I had to get somewhere and I'm borrowing someone's car because my car is broken down, Doesn't matter what the car is. It's gonna work. It's gonna get me there. Same thing. Like those products are the same. Both are gonna treat the fish. They'll be fine. How long can food be in the auto feeder before it goes stale? That's a great question. I personally think it's about a month. And so I also will admit to there are tanks that will go on for 3 or 4 months without getting their food changed. I also supplement all my feeding with feeding in person too, though. So even if it's like, let's say at a month it's lost 30% of its nutrients, because I'm feeding other food, it should still be getting enough, right? I haven't seen it where I've really seen food spoiled. I mean, there are some foods with lots of high oil content. I don't put those into feeders anyway. But yeah, that's there's someone smarter than me with more time on their hands could really test over a period of time to build a graph of nutrient decay in fish foods in that type of scenario. So how much flourish should I add to my heavily planted 60-gallon? Well, Mario, you would want to test your water parameters, but for us in our scenario where we were injecting CO2 is 17x the recommended dose. So if they say put in a capful per 20 gallons, we'd have to put in 17 capfuls per 20 gallons with the amount of light and the CO2 we were running. Now, that being said, you'll be running a different light. You may or may not be running CO2, and you'll have a different amount of plants. You'll have different types of plants. All of those things will factor into how much you need. That being said, test your water and keep adding it until you don't run out by the end of the week. And you'll probably be like, this is a lot. And then you're going to see the value in maybe switching to a different fertilizer that would be more potent. That being said, if you have, and that's part of the problem is, a product like Seachem Flourish, it might be, majority of it being sold might be to the person that has 2 pieces of bamboo sticking out of their 3-gallon aquarium, right? I've got a betta and I got this and I want to feed my plant. That's a way different client than someone who has a 60-gallon with it's so planted you can barely see fish. That's a way different client. Same product for 2 different things, though. Maybe the food in the auto feeder can spoil from moisture in the tank? Definitely could. Yeah. There's a million scenarios. The food could attract bugs. The food could just spoil on its own. The food could get wet. You could have Dean over in your fish room who is guaranteed to knock a auto feeder straight into the water every time he visits. Yeah, there's a lot of factors, and what's going to make sense in your scenario and optimize to that. How much will Easy Green increase nitrates if dosed at the recommended rates? I'd have to double check on the product listing, but I want to say is it 1.3 ppm per 10 gallons? I think we have it broken down in the details section. Gotta respond to Bob real quick. All right, sorry about that. Candy's got the info. Nitrates are 3 ppm per pump. So, and that would be per 10 gallons because a pump does 10 gallons. So keep in mind that test kits, it's very hard to measure that small of a thing. So you're likely to see like, there's none, there's none, there's none, there's none, there's 22, what? And then you'll like dose more, and you're like, it didn't go to 25. Then all of a sudden it'll be like, oh, it's 40. Because on a test kit, you'll a lot of times see big jumps because they're not meant to be crazy accurate down to single digits like that in parts. Because what a lot of people, I guess, probably wouldn't think about is 3 ppm sounds like a small number, right? Like, yeah, 3. We're just going 3, 5, 10, 12. That's parts per million, though. Like, these are actually very, very fractional numbers. So these test kits are actually, in the scope of everything you could test, pretty darn accurate. We're just doing very little adjustments. And that's why a test strip version of iron doesn't exist, because the average iron, like in drinking water and just other things, is so much higher. Like we typically in a planet aquarium, I believe it's something like 7 ppm would be like, wow, that is a lot of iron in your aquarium. But it doesn't take a lot to get there. Let me see. Or maybe it was 0.7 ppm. Let me see here if I can. I'm reading. This is hilarious. I googled and I'm gonna read my own article, or not my own, but like the Aquarium Co-op article. Let's see here. I can tell you that our iron, easy iron, adds 0.026 ppm of iron per pump. Some Planet Tank articles recommend aiming for a range between 0.1 and 0.5 ppm iron in your aquarium water. So that's where, like, at the highest range, we'd be measuring up to like maybe 3/4 of 1 ppm. And test kits, it's really hard to get down to those small measurements in something like even an average hobby level liquid kit or the test strip. So that's why we never developed a test strip one. Is like, I think they were like, the lowest we test normally is 5 ppm, and we're needing to test half of a ppm. I have an iron test kit. I think it reads in increments of 0.1 ppm. Yeah. So somewhere between 0.1 and 0.5 is kind of the zone you'd want to be in for optimal reds in your planted tank. Make sure it doesn't run out. If Dean was helping in my aquariums, I would not be worrying about knocking an auto feeder tank. You think that. You think that. Until it's every time. Dean's coming over. Okay, I got to buy him dinner. Gonna have to get a new auto feeder. Gonna have to. The pros obviously weigh out the bad, but it's a comical, like, and really it's everybody. Everyone that visits my fish room, they end up knocking one in. So that's part of the reason I'm redesigning the room. Of like, all right, this is not great because I have to set up another one. You got to program it, blah blah. You wait to do that a week, and pretty soon they're not eating as much as they should. They're falling behind. I had ants feasting on my feeder. On the plus side, my fish loved it when ants got dumped in. That's kind of hilarious. That's almost like a 4D chess move. Like, let's make an auto feeder that can feed live foods. I'll just actually put bug bait in my feeder. The bugs go in, and then I'll sprinkle those into the tank. It's kind of genius. All right. Crushed coral not helping with cage. Any ideas? My well water is 6.8 and a high GH. No buffer though. You're probably running into, the minerals don't want to dissolve in if there's already a ton of minerals in. But what's your water change schedule like there, Mark? You want to make sure, like, crushed coral dissolves over time, and a lot of people do weekly water changes and then be like, crushed coral's not working. You probably need to do it like once a month. You'll see a big difference. My tank has had a bacterial bloom for a while because I got a new filter. How do I make my water clear again? My tank has been set up for a while, no fish, and I was on vacation. You can maybe add some beneficial bacteria in if you're still lagging behind there. Sometimes, and with a filter change, you might have different porosity in the aquarium, and so you might want to put in like a fine polishing pad. Let's see here. Filtration. Oh, just realized my filtration link is not correct on the website. Yarg. Let me write that down. Got to fix that right after the. I was redoing menus on the website and I broke it. That's what I get. That's what I was doing on those long hours on Friday night. Polypad. All right. I've got the right version. So what am I trying to show you? I'm trying to show you there's a great content, right? Line it up. Here we go. We're there. Okay. So if it's any physical debris, you might want to go with something like a polishing pad. You can see in this picture here, these are part of the new pictures we took. There's a brand new photo shoot for this. We're actually A/B testing to see the conversion rate. So you might, if you come back later, you might be like, hey, the pictures are gone. Yeah, we're A/B testing. Anyway, putting in a fine layer of polishing pad, after, like a few hours, it'll start collecting debris. And this is a much finer debris. And then you might get, like, this is actually from Murphy's tank on the above tank sump. And it just collects all that fine debris out. But if your filter went from having, like let's say you used cartridges, that has fine pad on it. But if you switch to something that didn't, like an AquaClear, like this here, it doesn't come with a fine pad. If you lost that, maybe now it's the fine particles and you actually would need something like the cut to fit pad, and you can cut yourself up a bunch and then you'd have it. So yeah. By the way, I'm to do my job today, I'm supposed to tell you guys to help us buy a lot of Java moss. We need to prove to a vendor that we can move a lot so that they will supply us with more. So the more we sell, the more we'll keep it in stock, the more we'll be able to have access to other plants that are kept in stock. We prove a point once, then they go, okay, you prove the point, we'll keep these other plants in stock for you too. How long did the 1,450 gallon take to produce? I think it was like 8 or 9 months. So there's always like, you got to put the money down, then they got to start sourcing the product, which this was during COVID. Then they got to build it. It was a very long build because it, it took a forklift and people each. Like if you're building an aquarium that's this big, you glue a seam, you let it sit for, a few hours, and then you walk over and you move it and you glue the next seam. Well, when this thing now weighs like, 1,000 pounds or whatever it weighs, it's okay, build the jig, let's move it with the forklift and people into the next place. It's now in the jig, glue that seam. Next day, do it again. Next day, do it again. And so something that could have been done every couple of hours or something, or in a very, with one person, now takes a team of people and it's one move a day. And there's a lot of seams on an aquarium. And it's not even just the seams, because that's the gluing part, but when you got to plane the edges, when you got to, buff it and do all of these things and router and all these crazy parts, it just takes a way, way, way longer time. And that's what leads to, a tank like that costing like $30,000, is that it's a team of people working on something every day. And it, regardless of, well, it only takes 30 minutes to move it. It's like, yeah, but if you had to have 8 people drive to work 30 minutes, then drive and go home, and you have to do that, we have to do that 28 times. Like that's how that cost starts adding up real quick. Plus, thick, big acrylic is stupid expensive to begin with. And then just moving objects that are that big and heavy, like getting the stand of the powder coaters and stuff is it's its own nightmare. And then getting into the store, all of those things. So the seam probably takes days to cure. I don't know. In my experience, even with like, only 6 foot by 5 foot tanks, so like half the size, the curing happens like would depend. Well, okay, so it depends on which type of acrylic cement you're using and stuff like that. But some of them will cure in the span of a minute. Some are more like 10 minutes. Some he makes his own, physically makes his own acrylic glue. So I don't know the exact bond times. I'm sure for maximum strength there's a period, and then there's like enough to be able to move it again if you don't put it under too much stress for the next joint. My guess. I don't know. Yeah, there's probably low repeatability on a tank like that. Yeah, it's a custom thing that they probably break down the jig when they're done, because it's like, whereas like a 75, they might go, oh yeah, we have the jig right there. We do those all the time. Or a 6 foot tank or an 8 foot tank. When you start getting into the stuff this custom though, it becomes pretty daunting. So he actually, I believe Dean told me that, because I was out of the country when they finally delivered it. Dean said he'll never make a tank that big again. Like, it just wasn't worth the, like, the strain on the business of jamming up the whole production line and having to get the people there, and maybe that's like trauma because it was a pain in the butt, and then he would do it, but he would just charge more next time. Or I wonder if it really is like, if I order another one, I'd be like, sorry, not doing it. Like, oh dang. Acrylic cement is stable and movable within 3 hours of bonding. Full strength is at 48 hours for acrylic over 3/4 of an inch. Well, maybe there you go. I don't do it enough to to know. This person also said, I used to work in plastics and made a few large acrylic aquariums. It was a ton of time and labor, way more than glass. Alrighty. That's why I pay someone to do it. It's their job to know more than me. If I had $100 to spend on the website, what would I get? I want to do that exercise because that seems fun. Plus, I get to shop my own website, which I don't do very often. Let me see if I can pull this off. Which I can already read the comments. You're just trying to make us spend money. Yeah, that's my job. Let's see here. So the first thing I would do, if I was going to spend $100, I would buy an Aquarium Co-op membership for $5, because once you link that with the website, you'll save 5%. So it basically becomes free. So that'd be the first thing. So I got $95 left to spend after that, right? Well, you're gonna spend 105, but no, you spend 5, then you put $100 in the cart here, then it'll discount to 95, right? So also know that free shipping happens at $79.99. I would definitely, we're gonna take advantage of that. So for me personally, if I'd never bought from Aquarium Co-op before, I'm buying some Easy Green. I'm a guy that likes to buy for efficiency. I go all in. I'd go with the $20 bottle. Boom. Because it's a better deal than the 120 milliliter. I also probably have a large tank or a few tanks. The other thing that I really think is crazy good value that I would use all the time, for me personally, I got my camera in the way here, so I'm looking for water care. I would buy test strips because they're an incredible value that I use all the time. So that's another product that I use a lot. All right, what else would I buy because I probably already have filtration. I'm fine with that. I'd probably try some food. That's probably what I would try. What would I buy if I was only buying one food though? Because I only got $100 to spend. So I'd really want to make it last. What would I buy? I mean, part of it depends on the type of fish you have, so there's a little bit of that. What I bought wafers this week for my own fish room. I probably would go with, because I'm trying to stretch this out. That's the other thing too. Like, if you have a budget, I'm trying to stretch it. I would probably I'm going to go with the Nano. I feel like you can feed Nano for a long time. So we're going with the Nano. What are we up to? We're up to $59. Keep in mind, there's not the 5% discount yet, so we can go to 105 here. What would I buy after that? So I've got some dry goods. I always kind of want a plant or two. Did the stickers drop in price on the site? Yep, they're $1.99. They used to be $3.99. We got them down to $1.99. What would I buy? I just told you to buy Java Moss, but if I didn't own Java Moss, so our Java Moss price is ridiculously good, so I would buy one of those. All right. If I didn't have Java Moss, I'd definitely be buying some. What else would I be buying? I'd probably buy a Java Fern. I love Java Fern. And I save you're going to save 5% from being a member, so you don't have to buy 3 plants, but I probably would. Just because I like plants a lot. Ooh, dwarf aquarium lilies? Yes. Let's do that. Boom, where am I at? I'm at 82. Oh, 81 with the discount, because part of the discount updated from the plants. So I got some room still. What would I buy? So I got some dry goods, and I don't have like a knowing thing. It's not like, oh, I'm trying to breed a pistos or I'm trying to do a specific thing. Um, what I, any merch? I like the hats a lot, but I feel like that's a cop out to buy merch. So yeah, I probably wouldn't. Even though I wear that hat like every day, I probably wouldn't. Ooh, the hoodie, but it's too much for our budget. If I only had $100, I would stick to the basics. Um, what would I buy next? What do I have under aquarium supplies? I only got $100. Something that I would use. Let's assume I have airline tubing. I don't need that because the airline tubing is really good. Brine shrimp eggs, but I feel like with the brine shrimp eggs, you got to have a hatcher and that kind of stuff. I'm trying to think of the real, like, I've got a few aquariums. Would I buy? I'd probably buy more plants, but I'm trying not just to buy way more plants. Um, Foods. I like to test a lot of foods. What do I have in plant supplies? I feel like there might be some in plant supplies that I would. Ooh, I would buy root tabs. Yeah, I'd get a thing of root tabs too. Boom. All right, I'm getting real close. I'm getting close to the. Ooh. How'd that only go up like a couple of dollars? Did it not add? Yeah. Oh no, it's right here. All right. I like it. We still got money. We still got money to spend. Oh, I know why. We went over the threshold and I got free shipping. Boom. Savings. All right. I probably, let's see. Fish med. Everyone should have fish meds, but I don't know if I'm going to use up a $100 budget on it, but you should. If I come back to foods, I'd probably grab some scrapers because I love this food. I've been feeding a lot of this. How much is the big one? Oh, $24. Too much for our budget. Too much for our budget. If I only had $100, you don't get enough in this to justify it for me. If I was on that strict of a budget, I'd probably grab the Hikari algae wafers. Sorry, Extreme. For $13, you get quite a bit of food there. It's not as, the fish don't love it as much, but for Corydoras, shrimp, like my turtle, that kind of stuff. I mean, I still feed this to this day even. So, getting closer. Where am I at with my budget? 96. I can spend about $9-ish because these already have a little discount. So I can get like one more thing, basically. One more thing. Emergency USB air pump. We did get the test strips. Rapashi. Ooh, that's a good one. Water conditioner. I thought about the water conditioner because I do love, if I was low on it, for sure, right? I would get the pump head, this one right here. Not the 2 ounce. I can get the 8 ouncer. Puts me a little bit over. See, I'm at 106. But once you punch in that, once I sync up the account, it'd be like 100, 101. I think that's a fairly, so you got the chlorinator, you get the big bag algae wafers. I'm always on the big bag. Big bag, I'm just not the guy that's like, well, if I can get it cheaper. 20 root tabs is actually kind of a lot, so that's kind of decent. You can get a better value if you buy the big pack, but we only got $100 to spend. Dwarf Aquarium Lily, ultra value. Java Ferns, amazing. Only $8 for Java Moss. My opinion, pretty good. I was price shopping our competitor on Friday. They were at $12.99. The Extreme, because I wanted a good food, and so I was like, do I go with the flake or do I go with the nano? And I feel like the way I feed nano, it just goes further, and I could put it in auto feeder if I had one. And then the test strips, man, I use these things all the time because the fact I got 200, I just test, I just know, find at ease. And then you want a way to test when you're using Easy Green. And in my opinion, Easy Green is like the must-have. If I had to start just like eliminating products from our product offering, Easy Green would be one of the last for sure. So that's, oh, good. Okay, so good point. Case says big bag unless it'll expire before you use it up. That's true. You could, I always have a lot of aquariums, so I'm always going for the bigger bag. But you definitely could save some. You could probably get another product if you downgraded and went for like the half as big bag, you might be able to sneak in another plant. I'm big on plants. What I like about the plants is when you buy them, once you grow them, you're making more. So like as you're feeding, you're like, oh, I'm gonna have to buy more. I'm running out. But what I do like is the fact that you get to use like the foods, the root tabs, and the easy green. They all make more plants. So it's kind of like, by these, it's not just like you used it and it's gone. Like the chlorinator, kind of that way where it's like, oh, you're just chlorinating water and then it's gone. The more food you feed, the more root tabs you use, the more plants you should be making. So it's like trading instead of consuming. You get some, like a thing further down the stream. So yeah, I would buy a membership because then I could consume the videos, save 5%, get in on the next live stream that's the members only, consume all the other, like the vet talk and the food talk and the Corridora talk and all of that, because it's not going to cost you anything because you're going to save the $5 here. And I would buy these products as that's what I would spend $100 on. Corey's choice right there. Spend $100. I seem to remember they're coming out with larger Vibrabites. They came out with a smaller one. I don't know if they're coming out with a bigger one though. They better call it like Vibra, like what's instead of a bite, like I don't know. Call them logs, Vibra logs. Anubias and glue, especially Java moss and Java fern. Corey, do you happen to know if Heteranda formosa would feed on microgranules, like maybe bug bites? They will. I have the gold form of Heteranda formosa in my fish room right now. They currently eat the nano pellets I just showed you, but they'll eat the same bug bites too. So don't worry about that. Any plans to make a larger plant holder? Not unless shipping comes down. The bigger the product is, the more we don't want to make it. Like even though we're making a light, it costs $39 to priority ship a 4-footer. It's brutal. So, yeah. But people want things faster, not slower. Ooh. Ansley Blue is on the marketing team. We're calling them Vibra Chomps. I like it. Extreme, if you make a giant Vibrabite like thing, call it Vibra Chomps. Where have I been? I didn't know how to get the member discount. I don't know where you've been, Liv, because I feel like everybody else in this chat is going to be like, have you not seen the commercial at the beginning of every live stream for like the last forever? The reality is though, if you, because I don't want to call you out and then not actually help you. That's the worst thing you can do is like mock someone and then not actually help them. That's the worst of all the worlds. So to find out, you actually just have to click the join the club button here. Ooh, I didn't even shop. Maybe I'll log in. I'll show you. There might have been more savings, but you click the join the club button, and it'll tell you all the rewards. And then there's the video right here, and it'll show you how to physically sync your account. I'm gonna turn this off real quick because we might have been able to. There might have been an extra savings. Because with that $100, I gotta put in my password. Come on. See if that'll get me in. Wrong password. Oh, what is my retail password? Oh, I know. I have to have different passwords because if I ever actually did do it on live stream, I can't have people. Does that show my? Well, it shows my order number. I can't show you. I don't want you to do that. I want you to be able to reverse engineer my address or something. I literally ordered plants for myself yesterday. And then, how do I can't, it'll show you order numbers. So my last order I did for myself was $105. And I ordered Easy Green, scrapers, a USB nano pump, and our old pump because I wanted to test against these ones. And then I ordered $247 worth of plants yesterday. No, 17th. Yeah, yesterday. Anyway, I wanted to show you. Oh, we're sold out of everything anyway, but you could camp a little bit if you really need to stretch your money. And under the club, because we spent $5 to become a member, there's then the member only products. And this is where all the scratch and dent stuff lives. So if you were going to buy any of this stuff anyway, like this sponge filter would have been $5.99. Instead, for being a member, it's $5.09. You'll still save 5% off of that. You can see scratch and dent. These are all sold out. But, you know, usually like once a week or something like that, Robert will go through, and anything that we just found that was mangled, we'll just go, hey, let's throw it up. You know, like the packets of medicine are all the same, like the light. Maybe someone didn't like the color or whatever, right? Or sometimes they take too long to get to you. We'll send out another one, and then the first one gets returned to sender. So sometimes they're never even opened, but they look like they've been used. And so, you know, this light would have been $154.99, instead it's $131.74, and then you also save 5% on that. We're even getting some reviews, so let's see what the people say. Go down here, because these reviews will only be for people that have bought. As promised, when I got the box, it was damaged, but the light inside was perfect. I haven't set it up yet, but when I do, I'll let you all know. The light with a scratch and dent, I don't see any problems with it at all. The Fluval light works amazing. My plants and I both love the light. So I caved when I saw the big one come up for sale here. I love this dang light. I'm annoyed that you can't import a light profile right in the app. I digress. Yeah. So you guys, you know, keep an eye on it. Check it, you know, a couple times a week or something, and just, you know, don't starve your fish to death. Like if they're waiting on food, don't be like, well, I'm waiting. But at the same time, it can be cool to, you know, grab one of these every once in a while. I'll probably make this section stand out a little bit more, but you can only shop it if you're a member. So you have to sync up the account to be able to even shop it. So foods, a lot of foods don't make it on here because we just feed our fish at the store. But in terms of you know, other stuff, like this is, you know, broken package, any of that kind of stuff, because if you have 10,000 of an item, you're likely to be like, hey, this box got squished somehow. Or sometimes when we're opening cases, we'll actually slice. So if you accidentally slice a box, it'll go into this section too. So one other way you could have maybe stretched it out a little bit more. All right. Only a few minutes left. Are those shirts on the site? Oh, you better believe the Aquarium Co-op baseball shirts are on there. Same with the coins and the hats and the doodads and the thingies. I check the scratch and dent all the time, even if I don't need anything. Yeah, it's kind of, I mean, the products on there for the most part are just stuff we do in high volume, and people know the reputations. Then saving like an extra 15%, like, yeah. Warehouse crew tomorrow will be like, what the heck with all these Java Moss orders? Hey, I was told my job was to sell some Java Moss. If you guys can help me do that. There's nothing I love more than proving another company challenging basically the fan base of Aquarium Co-op wrong. Because I know the power that you guys have, and I love to flex it. Because, you know, well, we heard that before. Like, no, you haven't heard the Aquarium Co-op army before. Because if you had, you would know. And so I love to flex that whenever we can. Corey, is there a cheaper alternative to Universal Rocks? Not that I've found. I was looking just the other day. Because what did I want? What was I trying to do? For the 75-gallon I want to set up. I was like, what's the centerpiece? I was like, is there any other company that does a decent job? There's that other company in Canada that I haven't really shopped because they don't have prices and I don't make it easy. Aqua Effects or whatever it is. But no, I also didn't buy from Universal Rocks, so I'm going, man, maybe down the road I gotta figure out how to make some bigger aquarium decor that, you know, has I don't know, is made with love instead of disdain. I feel like whoever makes the stuff at Universal Rocks like adds in a little bit of hate with each one. Like, yeah, I'm gonna step on it. I'm gonna put my footprint in this one. I'm gonna make this one extra dirty. You know, like I don't know why. It's just all those random things always happen to my stuff. And I just feel like, you know, maybe you don't step on it. You know, like maybe you don't put your footprint in this one. Oh, Alexander Englart's popping off. 20 or 50 people coming through. Maybe we'll see a re-up on, Fish Farm Fish and Freedom just got re-upped. He had let it lapse. Now he got a freebie thanks to Alexander Engelhardt. Nice. The process to make those backgrounds is just time consuming, which means they're costly. I'm not questioning the price. I'm questioning the way they ship them and handle them, and while they're dirty and all that. Like, that's what I question. I shouldn't have to go, I got to cut around the foot mark in this one. And every edge on the 20-foot background I bought for the 1450 is not straight. There's not a single straight edge on it at all. And I would rather pay more money. Let's say cost goes up by 5%, but I get something that's already been cleaned, doesn't have shoe prints in it, never got folded during shipping, and had clean edges to be ready to start to install. That's what I'm saying. I feel like the more expensive a product is, the more it should be ready to use right out the get-go. Alexander Engelhardt says, now go get your discounts. My man, that's the marketing right there. As soon as it's over, I'll go check out the shop. I cannot wait to put my gifted membership to use once I get paid. All right. Plus, their customer service is terrible. Well, there's that too. Yeah, so not only is it an expensive product with all those faults, their customer service was not great either. And I think there's inherently something wrong when you spend big money on something. And big money is different to everybody, right? When I was 15, big money was $100. When I'm 25, big money was $500. Now big money is like $1,000, right? But when you're spending that big money at your life, whatever age and income level you're at that point, you expect, like, I saved up for this, I've bought this, I want that good experience, right? And I think the more expensive something is, the more it's on the company to deliver that, right? We all kind of know in some way, if you go and you spend $5,000 with a company, you expect to be treated a little better than if you spent $5. If you sit down in a restaurant and you order $500 worth of food, you expect a little bit better treatment than if you spent $15. Now, it doesn't mean that you won't get good service or good treatment at 15 versus 500. It's just when it's missing and you spent more, it hurts more. Why did I spend all this money here again when I don't get the reward? And that's the problem I have with Universal Rocks, is like, I'm probably a few $1,000s into these people, and I still only meet them with disdain of like, oh no, I hate working with this company. So, what was I just reading that I wanted to, does Aquarium Co-op still do company ambassadors? Kind of. We definitely send out products to people. Like, the ones I can think of off the top of my head would be Fish Room Fever, Michael's Fish Room. Who did we just send some more stuff out to? Chattanooga Ed, Oliver Knott in Germany, Fish for Thought, Creative Pet Keeping. Yeah, I mean, mostly we've changed it now to like, we just send you out some free swag and stuff like that, because it just never worked out where it's like we pay you to do a thing or you're trying to help us sell. Instead, it's like, hey, you want some you want some stuff? If you want to use it, great. If you want to tell other people you like it, even better. But if you don't like it, you can tell people that too. Like, we want honesty. We want, we don't want ever there be a perception of like, oh, these people only talk about it because they got paid to talk about it. Instead, we want it like, hey, yeah, it's a perk. You're in our space. You can get some free stuff. That's cool. And if you like it, that's cool also. But, obviously, it's a two-way street. If, like, every time we send this person stuff, they just crap on us super hard, well, someone might stop sending, right? But at the same time, it's like, that's a legitimate critique. Like, one of them, I would say a perfect example was Blake Aquatics. He helped us launch international shipping in Australia. He did a video where he's like, oh yeah, shipping's kind of it's expensive and this and that. And that was great feedback because then I went in and we optimized it even more. It was not a lot we could do, like shipping around the world's still rough, but we were able to go, you know what? I think we could fix that pain point a little bit if we tweak it a little more here and here and here. And we did that. And so that criticism actually helps us make the product and the thing better where we can. Sometimes it's like, well, can't make a new light for only $1. Has to be, things cost money. Buying Java Moss now for a video? I like it. Yes, you should get what you pay for. Yeah, and that's the biggest difference is Universal Rocks, they're not displaying what they, maybe it's time for me to go to their website, which this is like the cardinal sin. You never go to a company because then people will spend money there. And you can, right? Like I spend money there. I'm not gonna try and say I don't, because I do. Let's go to the website. But I think their main problem is that they're trying to do it all. They want to do zoo setups, they want to do your pool, they want to do, like all this outdoor living stuff, right? Like let's go to like a garden water feature. They do all this stuff, right? And so they're not focused on the aquarium stuff, but they do some, right? Let's go look at so I remember like the first time I was disappointed. It took them a long time to ship and all that, right? But I remember I came and I bought, where is it? It would have been tree branches. And for the 800 gallon, you guys saw this for a long time. I bought this branch right here. Let's make sure it's the measurements. Should be like 7 feet long. Yeah, 80 inches long. This thing's 8 feet long. And you get all these pictures, right? And you're going, okay. So what they don't do, well, let me make sure. Yeah, here's more pictures. So what they don't do, they don't show you that actually you don't get this plant. So that's the first thing. Like, not that I care, but like, that's a rule you don't do. Don't show stuff you're not going to get that looks like you would have gotten, right? And then 2, they don't do a good job of showing you the whole back and underside's unfinished. So you can only use this log as laying down. I know this now because I've owned this log. What they don't show you also, they're going to bend this thing in half, right? To ship it to you, to save some money on shipping. Shipping was already stupid expensive, but they're going to bend this thing in half. And then they say, just put it in the sun. It'll go back. No, it doesn't. I left it in the sun for days, hot days. It's still always had this weird angly bend in it. It got flatter after I muscled it some. It's also super dirty and all that, right? So that was one bad experience. The other one, I think I bought this. Let's see, go to here. I own this thing. Now, where's the biggest one? They got some real big ones. Is it under the cypress knee or cypress stumps? Nope. I own that one, right? That's $368, by the way. These things aren't necessarily cheap. But is it this one? The cypress knees? Where's their biggest one? I think it's, I own this. This is in the 800 gallon right now, right? So this thing was $560 plus shipping. Shipping ain't cheap. This one's so thick, you can't bend it in half. So they put it on a pallet for me. And you know what happened? The top of this thing's broken right off. It sticks up out of my aquarium, so it doesn't really matter. But if I had an aquarium that was, what is it? Height, 47 inches. My tank is only 40 inches tall. Had it been 48 though, you'd see the top being all messed up. And for $560 plus the crazy amount in shipping you pay because it's on a pallet, you should get a product that's not broken. They shipped all this stuff with a repair kit. They basically already knew it was going to break. So every time it's been long delays and stuff like that. And what you can't see in these images, let's look at, let's give it the fair thing here. I buy a lot of backgrounds, and I buy it by the roll, these versatile flat sheets, right? I click right here, and I buy them. Oh, where's the big roll at? This is the size, but oh, right here. So the last one I bought was a 4-foot by 19-foot roll for $560. That's going to do the 10-foot of the background of the 1450 and the side 6 feet. So I'll end up using 16 out of the 19 feet. What you see right here, this is all, look, you see how this is a straight edge, straight edge, straight edge? When you get this thing, oh no, it's all like jagged and crappy on every edge. And instead of seeing a straight edge like this, it'll be from this corner and it'll be like that. And so you're actually gonna have to cut it down here to use it. So of this 4 feet, you might lose 6 or 7 inches right off the get-go. And there might be a tear in it up here, that kind of stuff. And then maybe you can see it. This might actually, so you see all this crud? You don't realize that yet. These are footsteps in this thing. That's a footprint, a shoe print. And you see this weird line? You'll get this kind of stuff where the rubber's all uneven. They don't do a good job. So the expectations of like what you're getting versus what arrives quite different. So that's part of my, paying decent big money, not, just being continually let down. And, you order it and then you're like, oh yeah, we'll ship that. Turns out it took 4 months, that kind of stuff. So, but yes, there's not really any competitors. Does the product look good when you install it and you figure it all out? Yeah, it does. Looks pretty decent, but I just wish it would have been a home run, right? Like I order this stuff, it's expensive, comes in, I love it, easy to install. Let me tell all the people about it, how much I love it. Instead, I always have to focus on it's expensive. Make sure you're ready for the crazy stuff that's going to go down. And then if you temper your expectations, it'll be all right. So, all right. Part of the designing a product for the global economy is figuring out if you will survive shipping, and it doesn't seem like they just didn't think too much about that. Well, stuff happens in shipping. That does happen, right? The problem is, so imagine you're me, and you order this thing up, and you go, yep, I need it. $600 plus shipping, essentially. So maybe you're $750 into this thing. And it gets delayed, and it takes, 10 weeks to arrive, right? And you're trying to have a production schedule. Like you guys are going, when are you going to work on the 800 gallon? When are you going to do this thing? When are you going to do that? Right? And so you already planned going, well, I know they ship slow. Like let's plan 3 months, right? So I planned 12 weeks. They got it to me in 10. Great. But it arrives broken. So now let's say I'm like, you got to ship another one. I'm not going to delay setting up of my 800 gallon tank for another 10 weeks. Instead, you just live with it, right? So, yeah. You can use a hot vapor box to fix bent wood. I don't know how many people have a hot vapor box. I don't. But yeah, and that's the thing is like life has to go on. And the same thing, their clientele would be that way. You've got a zoo exhibit, you've got an aquarium exhibit, you've got a contractor building an outdoor water feature. All these people are used to having timelines. So it's not even that. It's just, and so the home hobbyist, never want I don't want it so that people go, Corey bought it. He said it was all right. I bought it. Now I think less of Corey because he didn't warn me that it was going to be this problematic. And so it's my duty to let you know all my struggles so that if you then go buy, which people, I no doubt people are, they're going, hey, I actually am worth, I can wait a year for it. I don't care. Right. So then they'll at least know what they were expecting and they won't go, hey, Corey didn't warn me. I warned you guys. And the products seem to last. They're in my aquariums. I use them. So, they're not all bad. It's just, they could be so much more if they just, if they got that last, I hate companies that like, they'll do anything until you pay them. Once you've paid them, you're dead to them. That's what I can't stand. I feel like if anything, business should be, help them give you money, but then once you have the money is where the service and the everything that really starts. That's what it should be. How do you become a channel ambassador? Highly interested and have many aquariums that I share on YouTube. I don't know. I don't know if there's really a good way. Some of it is like I observe you over time. Maybe I meet you in person. Just because you have a lot of aquariums doesn't mean that you would necessarily be a good fit for us, right? We don't just hang out with anybody. So it's kind of like, I would say the best way about it to think about it is like, how do I become someone's friend? Well, you kind of got to be able to hang out with them. Maybe you're at events. Maybe you're finding a way in a Facebook group I'm in. Maybe it's here on the chat. I don't know. There's no real like good like, oh yes, you fill out the application, then you can be my friend, right? Like you got to get to know people, and so that just happens organically over time, I would say. And so I don't have a great answer of like just do X, Y, and Z. There's a lot of companies that you can go be a brand ambassador for, but it's a very transactional. Sign this. You're going to do X, Y, and Z. X amount of videos for this amount of money to get this. And if you don't produce, we're cutting you off. We're just it's like hanging out with friends. Like there's a lot of the people we work with don't get huge view counts. They don't do a lot of these things, but they're good people and I know them. And so, yeah. And I'm a hard guy to hang out with. Like Alexander Engelhardt, we hung out once. He lives in my state. I could probably be at his house in half an hour. And yet the first time he met me was at Aquashella. So I'm a very busy dude that doesn't leave his house a lot. And so that naturally makes it harder, but I am online a lot. So, there's always chances. So I also see the retailer side where once people have paid you is also when the trolls come out and take advantage of your customer service. So I'm sure it's a balance. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a balance to everything in business. There are people, we have to fire customers every once in a while where they have unrealistic expectations. I try to go way out of my way to set expectations before. And then if there's something after they've paid and everything that's not meeting up, I reflect and go, did we misrepresent what we're going to do? Or is this person trying to make us do something we never agreed to do? But in general, we'll make things right. First, did something go wrong that is relatable to us? If the answer is yes, we're going to make it right. But if it's like, well, I bought Easy Green from you and, we're, and this is not too facetious, we're 82 emails deep and you still can't grow a plant. We're starting to get past the realm of like, for $20, this wasn't a master class in how to make your aquarium work with your Oscars, right? There is a limit to it. And finding that line, we, compared to other companies, probably let it go way longer than we should. But it's out of the fear of we don't want to become a company that just doesn't want to hear we got to say it all. So we'd rather err on, we probably did a little too much there and, it's not great for us, but we also don't want to just become the deaf ear, of like, we got your money. We don't need to hear you. All right. I've gone on 18 minutes too long. I'm signing out. I got people coming over. It's someone's birthday and there's food and my wife says there's a furnado outside. So that means Wincy's probably being deferred right now. And I can go watch that. And I'm going to get some lunch. I've got the worst and best lunch. I've got leftover nachos. So they're a little soggy, but the only thing that's as good as fresh nachos is kind of like soggy nachos. It's just a leftover. Now you can kind of eat them with a fork, and you don't have to like there's no chip selection, so it's an easier way to eat it. You just kind of like use the cheese to your advantage, and just get it on a fork. It counts as one nacho, right? All right, I'm out. We'll see you guys later. We'll see you next Sunday, actually. Next Sunday, that's the last one I can guarantee that I'll be doing. After that, I'm going to try to live stream from Europe, but I can't guarantee that the internet connection is always good. So next Sunday's guaranteed, but I'm really trying to hold firm. So if there's a connection that makes sense in Europe, I'll be utilizing it to stream. Hopefully it won't be it's not too bad in Germany. I think it's like I live stream at like 9 or 10 at night and it'll be noon here or something like that. So nothing too wacky. Thanks to everybody that came and supported us today. We'll see you next time.